Welcome to the Reiki Rays Global Healing Summit. My name is Yolanda Williams, and today I am here with my beautiful co-host, Heather McCutcheon of the Reiki Brigade. Heather, I just want to say what a pleasure it has been to do the summit with you again. This is a few times we've had to do this together, but I'm very excited to now sit down and have this discussion and learn from you. So thank you for making time for this today.
Yolanda, it's such a pleasure. We always have such great conversations, and I'm thrilled to be here, Sharon.
Yeah, it's always fun. And you have a really juicy topic. So I'm excited for everyone and myself to learn. But first, I want to make sure we all know a bit about your background. So, Heather left a full service ad agency in 1998 to study massage therapy in search of a greater sense of purpose. She shunned metaphysics until the universe challenged her to open her mind with an unmistakable invitation. Her story begins with an insecure, naive girl and ends with a confident woman challenging established social institutions by combining ancient healing modalities and modern communication technologies. In her book, Connecting the Dots, From Ad Exec to Energy Practitioner, Heather takes us through her transformation step by step, effortlessly moving from moments of bewilderment and epiphany to cracking jokes at her own expense. Walk with her as she bumbles through encounter after encounter, then adeptly connects the dots between quantum physics, energy healing, reincarnation, and a simple action-based plan to improve quality of life for all of us. In addition to serving clients through her private practice, Heather is currently teaching Reiki to enthusiastic students in person and remotely via Zoom, and recruiting volunteers for the Reiki Brigade, a volunteer organization she founded. To promote peace throughout Chicagoland and raise awareness of the incredible benefits of energy healing modalities, Heather and the Reiki Brigade have offered more than 8,000 10-minute sessions for police officers, firefighters, 911 operators, homeless veterans, incarcerated youth, families of homicide victims, violence interrupters, attendees of conferences for mental health professionals, and more. You can follow their healing adventures on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And of course, the links to connect with all of Heather's work are down just below the interview. That is incredible. I told you before, I always brag about the work that you do because it's so inspiring and it blows my mind. So, Heather, today you're talking to us about Reiki, shamanism, and the Catholic Rite of Exorcism, a comparative analysis.
Yes.
Yes, I'm so interested. Now, this sounds a little scary, So, what is it? What are we in for here?
Yeah, it does sound scary. And what I found through my learning is that it should not be that scary. We certainly have been culturally conditioned and by Hollywood to think that this is a super scary, satanic topic. And
Yes.
it needn't be. And with these other practices, it isn't. So it turns out that these practices are not so dissimilar. It's just a different approach. And I thought it would be helpful for people to hear how they're similar and how they're different. So that's what we're going to do today. Hopefully leaving everyone feeling much more comfortable with all of the above.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you say this because have briefly, it's run through my mind the idea of, well, what really is the difference between, say, exorcism and where people say they are removing energies or entities from people's space, whether intentionally or not? So I'm just really curious. What brought you to a place where you were researching this information?
Right. Well, as I've talked about before, and I'm not going to elaborate, but I went through a very traumatic period, and that's what brought me to Reiki initially. And just
Yeah.
suffice it to say, I had PTSD. I was very angry. I was, legitimately concerned for my own personal safety. It was a very difficult time. I was introduced to Reiki. It helped me tremendously. So as I was navigating, recovering from this experience, which took a long time, excuse me, I also was learning about Reiki and being introduced to all the clairs and having all these metaphysical experiences. And it was just a lot to juggle at the
Yeah.
same time. And I had a couple experiences during this time, which I was not prepared for by my Reiki classes, and I had to go searching for more information. I'm just going to tell you two quick anecdotes just to launch, although there are many.
Okay.
For one, while I was experiencing all those very strong emotions, fear, anger, grief, all the things, the electronics in my world went haywire.
Wow.
So the clock on my stove kept blitzing out. My watch, I was a triathlete and I had one of the watches where you would time yourself, and it had the I think LSD or LDS. What's the screen? Oh,
LCD.
LCD screen. Yeah,
Yes.
it just blacked out. All of a sudden, the screen is not working anymore. My little alarm clock in my home did not work anymore. And most compelling, my television, which was like 6 feet from my bed, was turning itself on
Oh my
in the
gosh.
middle of the night. I would
Wow.
wake up and my television would be at a full blare in my home. And I know I didn't fall asleep with it that loud. And I would go turn it off. And a couple hours later, it would turn on again. And that was happening over a period of time, like several times. Like I didn't imagine this. This wasn't a glitch. I didn't sit on the remote. The TV is turning itself on. And one night I finally turned down the volume because it kept waking me up in the middle of the night with this turning on of the television. And I was so freaked out by this because I had, again, legitimate concern that I was being surveilled. I
Uh,
thought, is someone messing with the electronics in my home to
right.
watch me? Am I being, like stalked by electronic devices?
Right.
And I had a woman friend who was his, excuse me, extremely psychic and connected with the spirit realm. And she said, I'll come over to your house and I'll check it out. And she walked in the front door and she immediately started laughing. And she said, Heather, this is your spiritual guide team. They are letting you know that they're here to support you. This is a good
Wow.
thing. This is loving support here for you. And they're just checking in with you, which was such a relief to me that everything is okay. And
Yeah.
whether or not I believed her to the letter, it was at least an alternative to what I was churning in my mind was going on.
Right.
Either A, I'm crazy, or B, I'm being stalked. These are the choices. She's like, no, 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 this is good. So that happened. And then also, as I was working with Reiki, I was becoming more and more aware of the spirit realm in my practice, such that I sometimes would have like a visual of a face, a clairvoyant experience of someone's face. And my client would say, I sensed my father here, and they would describe their father, and I would describe what I saw. And it turns out it's the same person.
Mm.
At one point, I thought it looked like Cranston, what's his name from Breaking Bad? Bryan
Uh,
Cranston.
okay.
It looked exactly like Bryan Cranston, and the woman didn't know who Bryan Cranston was. So I'm zooming through my phone to find a picture of Bryan Cranston to show her, and she's zooming through her phone to find a picture of her father. Bryan Cranston, if anybody knows, has been an actor for a long time. He's had a lot of different hairstyles and different facial goatee, bald with hair, with whatever. I pulled up a picture and she showed me a picture of her father, and it was almost exact, like in terms of the exact hairstyle
Wow.
and both facing kind of angled the same direction. She said, This is my dad. I was like, This is who I saw. And we're like, okay, that person was here.
Wow.
So those kind of things were happening such that I'm aware that there's, spirit interaction happening.
Right.
I had taken a mediumship class or two, not great at that, but it helped me with some understanding. I had a client come in, a woman in her, I want to say late 20s, just curious about Reiki. And on intake, how are you feeling? I feel pretty good, but having some digestive issues. Got a little something going on in my abdomen that's a little bit off. Otherwise, good. Curious to see how this goes. She
Yeah.
gets on the table. I put my hands on her. Immediately, I feel someone is here in front of me, and
Mm.
and I am clairsentient, such that I sometimes feel in my body what's happening for the person on the table.
Yeah.
So I immediately feel there's someone very close attached to me. And I know there's three people in this room, the
Yeah.
client, me, and this other person, and it's attached. And so I am working on her abdomen, and there's a big sludgy thing there. Energetically, I'm feeling there's a big cloud. There's something funky. I'm moving. I'm moving. I'm moving. She's whale spouting away, that breathing that people get when they go into that kind of shamanic dream state that sounds like this. So I know she's in a deep state of healing,
Yep.
and I'm, scooping, extracting. I'm pretty new. I think I'm doing this right. I don't know. This is a little bit weird. She seems fine. I'll keep going. The session ends. She sits up and she says to me, "Why did you leave the room?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "I was so relaxed. It seemed okay at the time, but now it seems weird that you would say to me, 'I've got to go right now. I'll be back later.'" And I was like, and I asked the question and I knew the answer. Did somebody pass away recently? And her grandmother, with whom she was very close, had passed away 4 months earlier. And I knew, this is grandma is
Yeah.
here. And she had a telepathic conversation with her grandmother that was so tangible, so audible to her. She thought it was me speaking to her.
Yes.
"I've got to go right now. I'll be back later."
Mhm.
And I didn't know, me in my real time, am I thrilled that we just had this cool experience? Am I insulted because it sounded like this woman said, "This lady doesn't know what she's doing. I got to take off, but I'll be back later." Am I freaked out? Like, I don't know how to feel about this.
Yeah.
And these kinds of experiences caused me to go into research mode. Like, what is going on? This isn't my curiosity over something that's happening out there. This is my curiosity over what is happening in my treatment room with me and these people whom I am being paid to help.
Yes. Yeah, it's so wild. And I can't stop smiling because it's like I often say, that's why I got so interested in intuitive development and started taking classes because of these experiences that just started to happen through practicing Reiki. So I just am curious, what were you taught in your Reiki class about this, if anything?
Well, so I was taught this extraction technique,
Uh-huh.
but I was taught, do this. And we talked about, dark energy blockages,
Hmm.
murky blobs of energy. We weren't taught what those might be.
Uh,
And I certainly had no sense that it could be a person.
right.
Um, and it just so many questions, like, what is happening right here? And it just was not covered. So in my Reiki classes now, I teach 4 levels, and that was the way I was taught, but I was not taught this information.
Yeah.
My level 3 class is largely about this. We are
Okay.
learning extraction. Here's what this stuff might be. Go forth with this information, unafraid, you're okay.
Yeah.
And then my level 4 class is about how to teach classes, how to do the Reiju, how to round up a class, practical information about, communication, conducting a class, etc. But I teach it as 2 separate 2-day classes. But I feel like this level 3 part of it, the way that I do it, is so important not to send people out into the world just unprepared for what they might encounter. And not
Yeah.
everyone's going to have these experiences, but for people who do, it can be scary if they don't know what's going on. I don't want anyone to leave my class unprepared for any, this kind of encounter.
Yes. Oh, thank goodness for you and for that, because again, I didn't have that type of training in my first Reiki classes. And so, yeah, it was kind of jarring. Luckily, I wasn't afraid, but I was curious enough to then develop and, take other classes and study to understand these types of things. So, what should we know about your study of shamanism to understand?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, because
Yeah.
obviously we have a short amount of time here, and I'm certainly not going to do any of these practices full justice. This is
Yeah.
just a very truncated, Reader's Digest version sample of what's what.
Hmm.
But I read a bunch of books, I researched online, and I went and took some of Michael Harner's Foundation for Shamanic Studies shamanism classes, and I had experiences there, and I learned kind of about how they teach. And in general, just again, very short, he traveled around the world. Shamanism is one of the oldest, healing practices in the world. The gist of it is that any illness, mental, physical, emotional, psychological, is the result of either too much spirit or not enough spirit.
Mm.
So they do their journeys, their shamanic journeys. They get instruction from spirit realm. They come back. They do some practices, which to the outward eye look very much like you're doing Reiki stuff,
Yeah.
to restore people to wholeness and get rid of anything that's not theirs, that's truly theirs to carry with them. So I went and learned that, and they made some mention of, here's some of the stuff that you could be encountering.
Yeah.
Energetic, you talked about entities. The guy in class said there could be like a turtle lodged in someone's side.
Yeah.
And they didn't specifically mention people. I only took 2 of the classes, and apparently they don't teach that till way further on.
Mm,
But I had enough of my own tangible, verifiable experiences in that class that I knew that what they were teaching was legit. So that when
right.
I read books by people who were more experienced shamans, I could, I trusted that what they were saying was reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to point out one of the things that you just said, well, all of what you just said, I think it's so important for all of us practitioners is that clearly you trusted your experience. And I think that's huge because a lot of times we will doubt ourselves. And so I just love that you highlight that piece of how important it is to trust ourselves and then, go from there. But also, it's interesting, Heather, because it seems that a lot of people find this kind of connection or relationship between Reiki and shamanism. So it's also very interesting to me, too, that that's the direction you went. But I want to make sure we get into this other piece because this is the part that I don't know.
Well,
Yes,
wait,
go
before
ahead.
you do that, because I know that you have studied shamanism as well,
Yeah,
and I don't know for what reasons you
yeah,
have studied shamanism, but I feel like all of these practices are guided by our intuitive, you know, downloads that this is
yeah,
how the world works.
yes,
So it is not, surprising that they are very similar to each other. There were, I want to say, 22 people in one of those shamanism classes. And when the guy started showing us what he was doing, I want to say 18 of those people were Reiki practitioners. And we all looked at each other. We were like, dude, you're doing Reiki. And he's like, I don't know anything about Reiki. This isn't Reiki, it's shamanism. But Usui, divined the system of Reiki. Shamans back in the day, they didn't have the internet to look up how to do stuff. They
yeah,
divined, this is how this needs to be done. Of course, the world works the same everywhere. So it's
yeah,
not surprising that these practices are very similar. But to
right.
go and get information from one system to support what you're experiencing in another, it just really helped me figure out what was going on.
Yeah. And again, I think it's really encouraging because some people, I'm sure, light bulbs are going off of like, oh, there is more I can understand about energy work to really, again, just even give you clarity as a practitioner. But yeah, we just never know what we may encounter or experience. And it's good to be prepared at the very least. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I would certainly never call myself a shaman based on
yeah,
my very little experience that I have with that. It was just really more to gain an understanding of
yeah.
what was happening in my Reiki practice.
Oh, same. I feel that's the same stance I have with that. Yeah. Well, I am very curious about this piece because, again, even from your title, I was like, oh, I don't know that I've heard anyone speak about this. But how have you familiarized yourself with the Catholic Rite of Exorcism?
Well, just really one source here. So
Okay.
Matt Baglio wrote the New York Times bestselling book, The Rite: The Making of a Modern Exorcist, which ultimately got made into a Hollywood movie with Anthony Hopkins. It's a horror film, and I I don't want anyone to use that as a source of information. The book is excellent. It's like a documentary style journalism following someone through their path of learning. At the Catholic Church put together a course in 2004 about exorcism, and in 2004 the bishops through the diocese throughout the world were instructed to select a priest to send them to that course so that each diocese throughout the world would have an exorcist on staff.
Okay, wait.
And
I
this
just
is,
I just want to make
yeah,
sure I understand this. So
yeah,
this course for the
yeah,
priests was put together based on true things that had happened that led to the necessity of this.
yeah. The Catholic Church, you know, I don't know what the experiences were that led
Right.
up to it, but as a group, they decided we need to train people to do this. They're apparently
Wow.
experienced exorcists because they put together the courses and helped
Right.
instruct. They put
Yeah.
together the syllabus. There's a syllabus put together
Yeah.
by doctors, psychotherapists, and experienced exorcists. So
Mhm.
this, I guess there had been exorcists throughout, scattered here and there.
Right.
But in 2004, they were like, we need more of these. We need them everywhere. This needs to be a thing. We need an exorcist in every diocese. So
Mhm.
bishops were to select a priest and send them to this course so that no matter where you're going to church around the world, you have access to an exorcist.
Wow.
So The book is written, a journalist followed around one of these priests, Father Gary from California, went and took this course in Rome. It was 4 months at the time. I Googled it just prior to like earlier today. It now says it's a week long. So I'm not
Wow.
sure what happened there, but can be taken via Zoom or in person. And it's this course on how to be an exorcist. So this is an official thing that the Catholic Church does. Matt Baglio, by the way, who wrote The Rite, also went on to co-write Argo. He also talks about how he doesn't like how Hollywood, their depiction of exorcism, but then The Rite was made with Anthony Hopkins, which is kind of a horror film. I'm not sure
Right.
what happened there. The
Right.
book is excellent. It's an excellent source of information. Do not watch the movie
Okay.
if you're looking
Good
for
to know.
info on how
Yeah.
to do this. Um, so the Catholic Church discerns between, first of all, one of their big things is discerning between mental illness and possession. I'm not exactly sure what the criteria are, but they have 4 different levels of possession or satanic involvement. The
Yeah.
first is infestation, and this might sound familiar based on what the story that I told you earlier, phenomena that occur in relation to an object or location, which may include movement, noises, odors, and or electrical disruptions.
Yeah.
An infestation.
Yeah.
Oppression, attack on the physical body, scratches, pushing, hitting, any unseen force. Obsession, attack on the mind of the victim, where they're going to have obsessive, intense, inappropriate thoughts. And
Uh-huh.
then possession, which is complete overtaking of the victim, which includes power over their words, actions, such that they harm themselves or others. The devil made me do it.
Yeah.
So 4 levels: infestation, oppression, obsession, possession. So according to them, I would have had like some kind of satanic infestation in my home,
Wow.
which if I had read this book prior to having my friend come over,
You would have been
I'd have been
terrified.
like I need this happening right now. Now the devil is here.
Right. Right. Right.
um, so we're going to talk about what are some of the similarities between the actual practices. What are these exorcists doing?
Yeah.
We're Reiki people. We have an idea what we're doing. Shamanism may be familiar to some people, maybe not to others. We're going to just talk about some of the similarities between how this goes down with
Yeah.
people. So first of all, clearing the space. And I know between the traditional Japanese version and our Western version, some of this may be different. I
Yes.
initially learned the Western version. So whichever version you're talking about, give me a little bit of grace when I talk about this, because they are going to apply to different people who are watching today.
Right.
So in Reiki, candles, sage, Palo Santo, and using chokeres in the 6 directions to clear the space.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that we were taught.
Yeah.
Shamanism, candles, sage, Palo Santo, clearing the space. In the church, candles and holy water. Candles are a constant.
Yes.
Holy water in the church. So that's clearing the space. Everybody does that.
Mm-hmm.
2, setting protection. In the Reiki tradition, especially in the Western version, grounding, people grounding themselves, surrounding themselves with protective light barrier.
Yeah.
Shamanism, filling themselves with life force is a step in the process. In the church, they say the Lord's Prayer, they say Hail Mary, they confess their sins, which is to attain a state of grace before going into this session. Everybody calls in help. In the Reiki Western version, we call in guides, healers, and teachers. Shamans, they call in guides and ancestors. It's very big on ancestral help to come and help
Mm-hmm.
do this work. In the church, they do the Litany of Saints, which is the long list of folks, come in and help me perform this procedure. So still, we're all pretty much on the same page. Acknowledgement of a higher source. In Reiki, we recognize that we're facilitating someone's healing, that their higher self or spirit or guides are doing this. We are not the agent of change. We are just there holding space. Mm-hmm. In shamanism, they do their journey. They travel to the upper, lower world. They get guides, instructions. There may be activities to do there. They come back. They do their healing process. They are very much in collaboration with and under the guidance of the spirit realm. Not I'm here doing the thing by myself.
Right.
And in church, God is doing the work. In the Catholic Church, God is doing the work. In terms of outcomes and efficacy, in Reiki, people have a lot of different experiences. They might feel heat, pulsing, weightlessness. They might have some clairvoyant visuals. They feel loving support. Outcomes can be reduction in pain, profound relaxation, greater focus, higher energy, sense of joy, sense of peace. Shamanism, very comparable outcomes. In the church, and this is where it's contrary to what the Hollywood portrayal would be. It's not
Right.
one big dramatic one and done. One of the priests that they talked about and focused on in the book ran it like an outpatient clinic. Here's your reminder card. You come in, sessions were frequently 20 minutes to a half an hour. If it was particularly challenging, it might last an hour long, but then you make your next appointment, you go on with your day. It's not a big, you know,
Right.
thing like we've seen. It's
I was going
come
to
in.
ask you that.
Yeah.
So in the book, it's not as dramatized, so to speak, of a situation the way that you would see in a movie.
They reference a couple, it's like third and fourth person.
Hmm.
They reference a couple that was pretty bizarre over there. We're not sure
Yeah.
how that happened, but this is how most of this is going down
Right.
over here.
Right.
Um, just making appointments and coming in like an outpatient clinic, getting your
Yeah.
session. Um, People reporting heat and relief as energy leaves their body. So feeling like something is being removed.
Yep.
And then in terms of duration and frequency, people making 60 and 90-minute sessions for Reiki,
Reiki.
it's just much like a massage. Shamanism, I don't mean to culturally appropriate. I don't know what's going on in native cultures in terms of shamanism, but I'm guessing someone in their community is not feeling well. They set up a time and a place. They go meet with the shaman, and that goes down and
Yeah.
repeat as needed. The church, again, run like an outpatient clinic. Implements, again, everybody's big on candles. In Reiki, salt. Some people use crystals. Some people use water. Shamanism, candles, salt, crystals, water. In the church, holy water, oil, salt. Condemn the use of crystals. Don't be using those crystals.
Yeah.
So those are a lot of the similarities. I mean, you can see where this isn't so different so far.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say there were a couple things with what you said. I mean, it's really, really fascinating. So one of the things, interestingly, and I love Franz. He's my teacher, And when you said that about the spirit guides, it made me think of how the influence of Shintoism in Reiki and the whole idea of kami and this essence, this intelligence of spirit or life in what we might consider inanimate objects or plant life or da, 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 you know what I mean? So I just say that to say it seems like maybe in a cultural understanding that the idea of spirit is in all things. So like maybe not the thought of spirit guides in the way that we think of it, but still some acknowledgement that spirit is present in all of these different forms surrounding
Just
us.
in general,
Yeah, like just in a
we're not a calling in of, but just an
right.
acceptance that that's there and that's part of this process. Thank you for pointing
Yeah.
out that distinction. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did not explain that to me. He said we don't call in guides, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to
But
still
now
do that."
I don't know if that's what he thinks. That's just what came to
Yeah,
mind when you said that idea of I wonder if there is a anyway. But the other thing that I thought was so interesting when you were explaining the protection with, like Reiki and we ground and we may put an orb of light around, and then with the shamanism filling with light, it's interesting because you could really do that within the system of Reiki too, like that
yeah,
infusion of making sure you are soul light filled. And
yeah.
that's one of the things that I teach, I think helps us in protection is literally our frequency and like what we're full of. So that's really, really interesting. And I wanted to ask you about the drama part, but you explained that already. But I just wanted to point out too, interesting the use of salt, because there are a lot of traditions that use salt as for protection and also cleansing.
A neutralizing, yeah,
Yes, yes. But then the more than one session with the church. I
yeah,
think that's very interesting too. Also, from the lens of being a Reiki practitioner, I think that's an interesting highlight for us because some people put a pressure on themselves like they're supposed to fix someone
yes,
in one session when really recognizing our healing process, whether for us or a client, is going to be ongoing, whether they have entities or not. But
Yeah.
it's not just a one and done necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some great things you point out here, Heather. Okay,
Well,
so
again, very, very condensed.
yes,
Very
no,
condensed.
but still, it's giving us a lot of good food for thought.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, just curious, with all of these kinds of similarities, are there differences?
Yes.
Yeah,
There
okay.
are a couple key differences. Terminology, for one.
Okay.
In Reiki, you would have, I don't know of anyone who calls patient, but client type person, the recipient, your Reiki partner in this practice.
Yeah.
Shamans would have like a client or someone that they're serving. In the church, it's a victim. They
Ah,
have victims are coming in, and they're not coming
interesting.
in Reiki and shamanism. It's people coming in with symptoms. I don't
Yeah.
feel great. Something's off, blah, blah, blah. In the church, there's victims with demonic possession. So
Ah,
that's who's coming in for an
yeah.
exorcism for these sessions. And then there's case eligibility. In Reiki, everyone can benefit from Reiki. There's no reason why you would not, there are no contraindications. Come on
Right.
down. Shamanism, the same. Everyone could benefit from more wholeness.
Yeah.
In the church, very dangerous to receive an exorcism for someone who is mentally ill. There is concern that person would be fixed in that state going
Hmm.
forward. So they have contraindications, and that's why they make a big distinction between, are you possessed or are you mentally ill? Like, is
Ah,
this appropriate for you? Is it not
right.
appropriate for you?
So they think that if the person's mentally ill and they have an exorcism, they'll be stuck in the mental illness. Is that
Yeah. That was
interesting?
according to Matt Baglio's book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And I was
interesting.
like, wow. So you got to really be careful. That whole thing about do no harm.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Wow. Okay.
And then practitioner eligibility. Who can do this?
Hmm.
Which is, and I don't mean, none of this is intended to be, derogatory towards the Catholic Church. I am just faithfully reporting what I have learned here.
Yes.
Um, so Reiki, or energy healing, even in general. Some people have natural gifts. You can go and you can take classes. You can progress down that path. You can offer those services to people, anybody. Shamanism, natural gifts, take classes, pursue that.
Right.
In the church, in early times, and according to Jesus, everyone can do this.
Yeah.
These miracles and more will you do because I go to my Father, I believe is out of King James Bible or some paraphrasing close there
Yeah.
too. Currently, the church restricts who can take these classes. The bishop appoints a priest. It's always going to be men.
Huh.
And it is only an exorcism is only valid when performed by the church. But interestingly enough, no distinction made between validity and efficacy.
Interesting.
Yes. Um, Also in 2009, so the Catholic Church runs a lot of hospitals, healing centers, addiction centers, et cetera. They're very invested in health and well-being, and they've invested a lot of money to make resources available to the community. And
Yeah.
a lot of nuns and people who work in these facilities practice Reiki. That has been the case for a long time.
Wow.
In 2009, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee on Doctrine issued a document, Guidelines for Evaluating Reiki as an Alternative Therapy, compared Reiki to superstition, and claimed efficacy of Reiki lacked plausibility and the use of Reiki lacked prudence. It summed up, it is inappropriate for Catholic institutions, including hospitals and healthcare centers, to practice, promote, or support the practice of Reiki.
Wow.
Fortunately, a lot of the nuns working on the ground, through their own experience and the
Yes.
experience of the people they're serving, recognize that this has tremendous value
Yes.
and have continued operating in defiance of this ban. So that's a big difference.
Oh, there's a new pope too. I mean, things could change.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Very
And to be
interesting.
fair,
Yeah.
I don't this information is not necessarily current up to date to the
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah.
I assume I'm hoping things are evolving. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's a pendulum, you don't know. But in 2009, they said, no, this is ridiculous. And even in the book, there was an instance where a woman was having an issue and her husband, they couldn't get an appointment or whatever. There was an accessibility issue, and the husband, just trying to help out of desperation,
Yeah.
did like the Lord's Prayer over his wife with whatever other intention, whatever he had at his disposal to
Mhm.
use. And she reported feeling waves of heat, blobs leaving her body,
Yeah.
profound relaxation. She felt a lot better. In effect, the same outcome as when Father Gary was
Yeah.
doing his exorcism by this untrained dude who just really, out of love, wanted to help his wife. So,
Yes.
oh, okay. And then a final one is tone. So with Reiki, we're talking about loving intention, oneness, compassion. Shamanism, oneness, healing intention. The church, the ceremony is broken down into two parts. The part where they ask for help and God's coming in, and the litany of the saints, and then the imperative, which, and I'm quoting from the book here, I command you, foul serpent, to depart. I adjure you, accursed dragon. I cast you out, unclean spirit, along with every satanic power of the enemy, every specter from hell. Depart then, transgressor. Depart, seducer, full of lies and cunning, persecutor of the innocent. Give place, abominable creature. Give way, you monster.
Wow.
Now, in reflecting back on the 30-year-old woman who came into my office and said, I'm having some stomach disturbance,
Hmm.
and me sensing there's someone else here,
Yeah.
and coming to the conclusion, I'm pretty sure this is this woman's grandmother.
Right.
And in my reading, going on to one of the books I read by Robert Alcorn, I think it was Robert Alcorn, one of the little introductory phrases in one of the chapters said something like, um, this could be someone's grandparent who has passed away unaware of the process of dying, who, in an attempt to stay close to their loved one and latching onto them as we're batteries, our chakras are, our energy
Energy.
centers giving off of energy. There's a spirit who's passed over. They kind of need energy to move around and do their thing. They have not gone into the light, whatever your worldview is here, passed over, but not gone into the light. So they're bopping around kind of in our earthly plane in spirit form, wanting to stay near their person, using them as a battery. This woman is getting energy sucked out of her midsection. She's like, I've got some digestive abdominal issues. Grandma doesn't mean to be harming anyone. She's
Right.
just hanging out nearby. And if this person was like, according to that second, what was it? There was the infestation, and then the, I forget the words, oppression,
Hmm.
where there would be some kind of attack on the physical person. You're feeling some kind of adverse consequences of this spirit infringement. The church could be saying to grandma, get out, you accursed foul serpent. And now that just seems a little aggressive for
Yeah.
grandma.
Yeah. A little, yes. It's so funny how this what you're saying, it also reminds me of, like, a lot of people have a practice of releasing cords and attachments and these sorts of things. But it also, something that you said, oh, about the guy and his wife, reminds me of that thing that we focus on a lot in Reiki in terms of our expression and like the level of frequency of energy that we hold, right? It's incredible how it all points to what we're capable of. I mean, everything you're sharing, no matter what lens it's coming from, whether it's Reiki, shamanism, or the Catholicism, just that we humans have the ability to do such a thing, but also the recognition of how powerful energies are, and that there are other expressions of, we'll say, intelligence that exist. And it's wild. I just
Yeah.
want to tell you really fast, like a super fast version of this. I've spoken of this on my podcast before, but I had an experience one time with a Reiki student who was very empathic, and they were a bartender, And we talked a lot about them, being very aware of how they manage their space, especially working in a bar with all kinds of things
Yes.
being loosey goosey. Well, anyway, this one day they called and they were like, I'm feeling really off. Like, I don't even know what's wrong with me. Can I come get an attunement? Because they were thinking maybe I just need like a boost, something, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So I said, well, a friend of mine is here, but you're welcome to come over if you don't mind. My friend is here. So anyway, so my friend and I are in the living room, and this person comes in and they sit down on the couch and they start telling us just whatever they were talking about their life, what was going on lately. But my friend and I both had these very kind of almost like defensive positions, like our postures shifted. And we're subtly looking back and forth at each other, like quietly saying, like, do you feel that? Like something was present. And
Yeah.
so we're listening to this person tell their story, but we're both like, ah. So anyway, I go and I prepare, get my mind right to do the attunement. And then I invite them into this other room to do the attunement. And they sit down in front of me. And you know how, imagine you're standing behind someone about to do the attunement. And all I did was I raised my hands and were directing towards them. And they jumped up out of the seat. And this black smoke came out and like left the room, right? And so something in me was just like, stay calm, right? And she was like, oh my God, oh my God. Oh, I'll tell you when it's over. So anyway, we go through the attunement, but now I'm vocally saying, now I'm about to touch you. Now I'm about to do it because I don't know what the heck just happened. And so anyway, the attunement's over. I say, come out when you're ready. I go in the living room with my friend, and my friend who's very psychic, she goes, what the hell was that? She saw the smoke come out and leave the place. So anyway,
Hmm.
then the person comes out and they were like, oh my God, there was something that came out and it was trying to hold on to my ribs like it didn't want to leave. And it was like forced out of me. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that story. It all worked
See,
out, but it
and
was wild.
thank you for sharing that because I feel
Yeah.
like these are the kind of experiences that people could be having with
Yeah.
no background information about what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, according to the Catholic Church, that's a big scary monster, something to
Yeah.
be fearful of.
Hmm.
And the philosophy that I have adopted is that if we can pass from our human physical form into the spirit realm and still be kind of in this earthly plane
Yeah.
interacting, and you could say ghost or haunted or whatever, but having some agency, some energetic needs.
Yeah.
And you think about, okay, grandma is a loving entity, but people
Right.
pass through violent means. If you
Right.
think about like the Holocaust, if you think about slavery, if you think
Yeah.
about Pol Pot, if you think about the Spanish Inquisition, if these folks who are tortured and are angry and terrified and not understanding what's going on are floating around in our midst, it doesn't mean, I mean, anyone who's traumatized, hurt people.
Yeah.
They may be vengeful, they may be angry, they may feel dark and yucky to us, but it might just be human pain.
Right.
And for us to um, amplify that to some, you know, the enormity of Satan or the devil, this
Yeah.
all powerful dark force,
Yeah.
when it could be someone who's just really traumatized and could use some love. So I guess
Yeah.
my point is when we're thinking about everything as one and we're having compassion,
Yes.
if you come across anything, a dark cloud, something that makes you feel yucky inside, and just
Yeah.
yucky doesn't mean evil. It could just
Right.
mean a depletion of energy. It could be a grandma, but it
Yeah.
could be someone who suffered tremendously. And then given these choices of how to respond to this, are we reacting as we have been taught in Reiki with loving intention,
Right.
healing intention? Um, here, take this love, take this energy. I'm offering it to you. Maybe you could move on in your journey and go someplace where you would benefit more.
Right.
Go forth.
Yeah.
Or are you screaming and picking a fight with
Yeah.
someone who has been injured? And I mean, we talk about, narcissists and people who are gleefully evil, but they
Hmm.
are injured people. And I
Yeah.
like the analogy of animals. You see all these videos on social media where there's like a dog that's barking and angry and mean, but it's because they've been abused.
Right.
And we seem to have so much compassion and so celebrate when someone takes them in and nurtures them and loves them. And in, a year's time or whatever, the dog is happy and playful and everything is good. People
Yes.
are the same way.
Yes.
Don't look at a person and write them off as you're done. You bit me, we're done. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't need to stay in very close proximity with them, but certainly energetically. And certainly in the case where if you're feeling something dark and, it may even feel threatening, but think of it as fear. Think of it
Yeah.
as a hurt soul and offer loving intention instead of you accursed, blah, blah, blah. Because
Yes.
isn't part of the Catholic Church love thine enemies? I'm just really not sure how we got from A to B in
Yeah.
this paradigm.
Listen,
But
Heather, I can't stop smiling because I literally had a friend. She's a big dog lover. And we were having a conversation one day and she was making that comparison how people are so horrible. And that's what I asked her. I was like, but look at how you are with these animals that have been, tortured or whatever they went through in the shelter. You have so much compassion. And I'm like, what's the difference with humans? Like, we don't come out like that. Like, there's things that people have gone through. And it really was for her in that moment, a light bulb moment of like, wow. But I love that you say that because I think a lot of us need the reminder. People are expressing a lot of a reflection of their own hurt and what they've gone through. And
yeah,
so, gosh, I love that you say that. And I just want to say, too, really quickly before we go, that person that had that experience that I shared after that, you talk about someone who's on top of their grounding, their energy work, making sure they're managing their own space.
yep,
They never had a problem since. So I
yep.
just want to ask, you have done a lot of research on this. So, are there any takeaways that you want us to know or where we can find out more?
Before we get to that,
Yeah.
I want to just give the church a little bit of kudos. They
Yeah.
seem to have made some progress in that in some of their literature, they have noted a gray area between what they've called the devil and the darker parts of human psychology.
Yeah.
So there has been an attempt to integrate that. And yet, at the time I was researching it, the process of this exorcism was still the same. So this
Mhm.
imperative part of using your ego to
Yeah.
belittle and, was still intact, even though they were still kind of rethinking what could this be here.
Yeah.
But in terms of takeaways, again, you may never encounter this. I have had a number of experiences since those initial experiences where I have seen dark clouds, just like the guy in Walk the Green Mile when he, the cloud of bees and almost that
Yeah.
exact same thing going out of this woman's head. She couldn't focus. She could, was trying to get something done, super scattered, super distracted, couldn't sleep. Then all of a sudden sleeping better, feeling wonderful, feeling whole. I believe as Reiki practitioners, this could be happening all the time,
Yeah.
whether you are aware of it or not, or you may never encounter anything like this. But if you do, don't be afraid. You are using your intention. And I feel like worst case scenario, there's an entity out there with their intention, not an all powerful, whatever, maybe a
Yeah.
crabby child. You don't know.
Right.
But offer them love, offer them compassion, offer them healing, offer them an invitation to move on in their
Yes.
journey, that there's not anything to be afraid of. We're not opening up, a trap door to all kinds of chaos. This isn't, what is it, Pandora's box.
Right.
This is an opportunity to heal on multiple levels. So,
Yeah. No, I think that's so helpful to hear again, especially if you've had any type of experience, but just didn't know at all what it was. I'm sure you have inspired a lot of people to either, learn more or at least take a sigh of relief of what I experienced wasn't, wrong or crazy or these sorts of things.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
where can we find out more though? Because you've done a lot of research. If we do want to know more, what's a
Yeah, well, what
reference?
we've talked about here is just a really condensed version of chapters 14 to 16 in my book,
Oh,
Connecting the Dots from Corporate Executive to Energy Practitioner. So this is in my book, along with lots of other stories and anecdotes in greater detail. But also, again, I teach this in my classes, spending 2 days in Reiki level 3, talking more about this, learning techniques and philosophy and understanding and referencing other resource materials and just spending a lot of time talking through this so that people get a comfort level with it.
Yeah.
And then again, level 4 is about teaching classes and all the practical aspects of that, as well as all the spiritual and Reiki elements. So available in my book, Connecting the Dots, and available through my level 3 and level 4 classes, which can be taken remotely. So regardless of where you are in the world, you can do that. So I did want to offer all of our viewers a $50 off if you type in Summit 2025 for my level 3 and level 4 classes. I offer them just, once or twice a year. It's not as often as the level 1 and level 2 because there just aren't as many people that want to take it that far.
Yeah.
But if you are interested in that, reach out to me and I can let you know when they're coming up on the calendar. Definitely let you know when they get scheduled if you don't see them yet.
Perfect. Okay, so the $50 off level 3 or 4, enter code Summit 2025. This will be down in the description just below our conversation. And hopefully we can add that link to your book as well. I have to tell you, this is why I was excited about this conversation from seeing the title, Heather. And thank you so much for all that you shared. This was very, very enlightening. And
And thank you for your input. It is,
yeah,
I mean, I really feel like people could benefit from these conversations
yes.
and for you to share what you shared, just validating for everybody who's watching. It's not just me.
Yeah.
It's could be you, could be your neighbors. You'd be on the receiving end of this. You could be on the, offering Reiki end of this.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
food for thought because there's a big range of what it is helpful for us to know as practitioners and
Yeah.
actually just humans because we're interacting with energy and we are energetic. So thank you so, so much, Heather. Again, for everyone watching, all of the links are down below the video to connect with Heather and her work and to get that code for the discount on the classes. So thank you, my love.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.